be unable to make it this evening. So therefore, let's call this work session to order at 6:02 p.m.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Larson. This is Miranda, Deputy Town Administrator, Town Clerk. I wanted to do a work session just because we've been having a hard time fitting Envision into our very packed meeting agendas. So today, what I want to do is every trustee gave me their feedback on Envision 2030 and answered the SWOT questions. So specifically, I'm just looking to have a relatively informal discussion about those questions. My hope is that after reviewing them, you maybe have additional input or other things that you want to add. And again, this is really just me collecting information. So feel free to share whatever it is that comes to mind. So Mayor Larson, if you can scroll down, I think everyone's familiar with our new logo that we changed from that scary Halloween image.
There needs to be more bats. More bats.
Right, more bats, more dark. Yeah, so that is the new ad. Okay. So the first question in the SWOT analysis were, what are a few of the community's greatest achievements over the last decade? I listed what you all had identified. Now, if I have kind of some inserted comments like you see under sustainability efforts, that's because that was identified as a theme, because more than one trustee had discussed that in their answers. So in reviewing what was there, does the board have anything else you feel like you want to elaborate on or have questions about or want to add to with regards to greatest achievement?
I would just say this sort of our ongoing achievement is how we've come, I think it's kind of, it's in the, you do have pandemic in the first one. I just want to reemphasize kind of the ongoing achievement of how we're, as a town, addressing COVID-19 and the strength of staying with buying local, supporting our local businesses, the way the volunteers came together to support the food pantry and to make sure that those who need support are getting it through food and other resources. But you do have pandemic in there. That one just keeps getting bigger by the day as it keeps going on and on.
Yeah, I actually met with the library yesterday and they really brought up a good point that when we're looking at the next 10 years, we have a unique situation here where we're really looking at like what's happening in the next 2 months. I mean, for the board to consider pandemic related goals in addition to kind of our long-term goals, because I do think that this does create a different challenge that the board and the town has to really look at and the community as a whole. I would agree. Are there anything else from other trustees?
This is Alan. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I just think that, it's kind of woven into the comments, but I think we made great strides in terms of sustainability. Going for 100% renewable energy, trying to have zero waste. I think Chris Pelletier made a lot of good decisions, brought some good things for us in terms of wastewater treatment, things like that. So I think we made a lot of progress there. And that was an important community goal 10 years ago when we set off. It really impressed me that was a value that was pretty universal in Nederland. And I expect that's going to be the case for the next 10 years as well.
Mm-hmm. Great. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll just pop in here. I think it's kind of identified there in terms of Nederland Library, Carousel, Happiness, and those. But I'd just like to point out Nederland has had extreme strengths with partnering with non-government organizations, a lot of our nonprofits, and helping to bring in human services, the food pantry, as well as partnering with Niche, working with Boulder County, U.S. Forest Service, and just really kind of going outside of the scope of what a lot of municipalities can do because we're so limited, having really strong partnerships with our nonprofits in town. So.
Julian or Lindsay, do you have anything else, or Tanya?
I could just read what I had written about the strengths of physical things we have being that the library, that was a huge accomplishment. And our hockey rink and tennis court are fantastic. And we should probably work towards getting a roof for the ice. And then again, the skate park, and that the farmer's market has been a really great thing this year. And that those were the physical things that I thought were pretty strong right now. And of course, the carousel. So all those things make our town a fun place. Mud Lake, also amazing. A fun place just for families and people to stay in town and not leave.
And a lot of my feedback surveys, the library and the Carousel of Happiness have been named. And so I shared that with the library team yesterday, and they were really excited to be in the same category as the Carousel of Happiness. Those are fun things. And I know in supporting the visitor center team, those are two pieces that we love to direct people to, in addition to the skate park and farmers market. Lindsay or Julian, anything, or we'll move on?
We can move on.
Yeah, I don't have, yeah, I don't have too much to add, but
Okay.
I think looks like we covered it all.
Cool. So then the next question was, what are some of Netherlands' most valuable assets? Obviously, the people was really identified, but the one category that came out of that was also the landscape. That we have incredible trails and forests and places that people want to come to and be around. Are there any other assets that you feel like we want to add to this list or really drive home and highlight?
Just want to always take a chance to highlight town staff.
I would second that. I mentioned that in my comments, but I'll reiterate it. We really have a great town staff, and they'll go above and beyond the call of duty.
I won't make you all talk if you don't want to.
Well, I can say something that one of our assets, besides just the natural forest and our location, is our our proximity to the cities, which gives people the opportunity for jobs and culture that we wouldn't be able to get in a small town. And it can also be, as we move on to weaknesses, it can also hurt Nederland, though, because all that is available 30 to 60 minutes away. So people don't often see the need for improvements in our town when they spend so much time in Boulder and in Denver working and whatnot. So that's my comment.
Yeah, and I did incorporate that into maybe one of the challenges, Trustee Corvalin, because I know you had brought that up, but I do think it's a notable asset as well.
It is amazing to be able to go 1 hour, be in a museum, or the airport, or for jobs and all that. So,
and of course, we have the mining museum right in town.
True. When it's open.
Right. When it's not COVID.
Right, when it's not COVID time. Any other assets you all want to add? Okay, we'll move on. What makes Nederland unique? Every trustee had a different answer. I couldn't necessarily pull a theme because they all are so different. And so I'm not sure if in reading one another's responses, something stuck out, you agree, or if there's anything you want to add.
This is Julian. I thought one of the key themes was how we had done a pretty good job, considering our limitations, at encouraging free enterprise, as opposed to letting big companies come in and run things for us. I mean, we are stuck with some of that, but I think the town has done a very nice job of promoting free enterprise, small businesses competing with each other and providing services.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I agree with most is the people and the small businesses. Because if we had a Starbucks and businesses that were down in Boulder and Denver, we wouldn't be that charming small town. We would just be any other town in America. So that's something that I strongly believe we need to preserve is our business environment.
Great, thanks. Anyone else? We're gonna make this quick, but we can discuss more at the end. Okay, I will move on. The next one was the weaknesses. What has been the community's biggest challenges over the last decade? Again, I guess when I say theme, it's just more that you all didn't necessarily have similar answers. Each person answered slightly different from one another. So again, in reviewing the responses, is there anything that really sticks out or things you want to add or highlight?
This is Julian, and I think one of the key themes that came out for me was the issues around communication. It seems that whatever happens, rumors within the town can spread very, very quickly and become quite vicious, even though the BOT meetings are written up in the Mountaineer. And I think possibly one way to address that would be to see if we could work with the person reporting on this to try to bulletize what we're doing so that it's easier to read and a quick read and people get the gist of what actually happened. So that's a possibility. I don't know if the Mountaineer would be interested in that, but I know the kind of a long professorial description of what the BOT did, I'm guessing is not read as thoroughly as would serve us.
So we do have
Juliana?
John on the phone. I don't know if John, you wanted to comment, or John on the computer from Mountaineer. He might not be there.
Yeah, I would be very interested in hearing what John thought of turning it into a more bulletized thing, even if it's just an executive summary at the start.
John,
I
think you're there.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. What's your
Okay.
thought?
Well, that's a little out of the box. I'm glad to work with Julian on that.
Okay.
And if he has an idea that would make it more presentable, I'm glad to listen to that.
Yeah, I'm thinking more like maybe an executive summary at the top, because we often have business here at the BOT, and within days I'm hearing rumors about what we did that we didn't do, and I think any experiment that might get the word out more effectively for people who are reading in a hurry might be worth considering.
Certainly, I agree.
Okay.
I also think that there should be web pages dedicated to some of our bigger projects that also have kind of a FAQ or rumor mill section where we can tackle some of these questions head on. I mean, I always think about our affordable housing, Tungsten Village that went up, and all the rumors that went around about that. A lot of it was just a misunderstanding or a change from one meeting to another, where I think the one was the pipe, that they were quoted one cost for a pipe and they reduced their units from 30 to 27 and reduced their pipe. And so we reduced their PIP fees. And a lot of people didn't see that portion of it, and so got up in arms saying that we gave them special treatment or so on and so forth. And, I wish that we had a section that was like, oh, you may have noticed that this changed and here's why, and just like a little one sentence thing. Nothing too big, and something you could, hyperlink back then to the meeting where that happened or something. Because I do think that, for these large projects where we have meeting after meeting after meeting, that the details can get lost in these large packets. And so having something with the most asked questions or things like that on a single page on our website would be amazing.
Yes, it is an extreme challenge to try to narrow down a 3 or 4 hour meeting into a 300, 400 meeting article. And I cannot include everything and give the proper detail on the ones that I do include. So I'm glad to have any participation. I do send my articles to Karen and Miranda for their approval. And the last couple meetings, they've only made a couple real minor changes. But Julian, I'm glad to have your help and suggestions.
John, I'm not a very good writer, but my notes about these meetings attest to exactly what you're saying. They're very hard to summarize. But what I will do is see if I can be constructive in summarizing your next article. Let me see if I can come up with a creative idea for summarizing it. And if I can't, I'm just going to have to bow to your better understanding of this and reinforce Lindsay's proposal that we look into an FAQ that's kept up to date. That may be
Well,
harder.
I really do think that's your that's your best bet, and also increasing some of your own announcements and your social media presence will also really help, because we can't do it all in the newspaper.
Perfect. Thanks, John and Julie and Lindsay.
Welcome.
Definitely communication. Is there anything else that sticks out for people, for board members?
Yeah, I'm going to say that we're a town of 1,500 with 3 state highways and a river running through it with 1 bridge. It's a weakness that our town has, is that we are at the mercy of CDOT, Boulder County, U.S. Forest Service, which surrounds us to a large extent. And being that we're at the mercy of CDOT to deal with our roads, right now it's a huge weakness in the town of Nederland.
Yeah, I fully agree with that statement.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I will move on. Disadvantages of being a small mountain community. I can tell you that kind of universally amongst most the boards and commissions and some of our public members is revenue and just our limited financial resources. Is there anything else you'll feel like needs to be added to that list of disadvantages of being a small mountain community?
I'll toss in here the interplay between we need the tourism and the visitors, particularly recreation and all those other visitors for our economy, but also the dichotomy of we all live in a small mountain community because we want to enjoy it. So I think dependence upon outside money brought in via tourism and recreation.
That's also true. I agree with that as well.
Okay. Other thoughts?
I mean, the schools suffer quite a bit from low enrollment and being part of BVSD as opposed to being our own district.
Okay.
But there's nothing we can do about that I know of.
Sorry, schools.
What was that?
Just cracking the joke. They could go experiential education or Montessori. There are ways we could swap our schools into an experiential framework and work with other private entities, but that's a much larger
Yeah, that's what we're going to here. But yeah, I would love that. Yeah.
Perfect. Things I haven't had a chance to connect with the schools yet. I know Teens Inc.'s board is working on their SWOT review, so I'm looking forward to hearing from them. And then hoping once kind of school gets settled, I can connect with the high school, middle school, and the elementary school. Okay, so what should be the community's main focus for immediate areas of improvement? Infrastructure repair was something that was highlighted. Again, in reviewing it, are there other areas of improvement that you'd like to see us focus on now?
Well, I mean, we really need to get the Gateway Park situation like started again. Like have a goal for that. And I'd also like to start seeing some brainstorming around providing more avenues for artists and musicians that are losing so much money right now with COVID.
Great. Okay. Anything else?
I think beyond the infrastructure repair, we're going to need to take a serious look at infrastructure needs going into the next decade. I think the last 4 years, the amount of traffic, both in the wintertime for Eldora and especially in the summer times now, has kind of crept up on a lot of folks, and the need for another bridge and vehicular access other than the main highway is, in my opinion, becoming a need and less so of a pipe dream and a hope for.
So are you thinking you want a bridge permanently, not just for egress? Like if you could have your fantasy fulfilled on the second bridge, it would be a bridge that people use daily?
I would see probably, honestly, if my fantasy came true, it would be 2 bridges. You'd have one up in Meyerton's property, currently the Frog Ponds, utilizing that existing bridge, just overlaying it with steel, and either down on Conger or all the way in the park. I wouldn't want to ruin Japita, so I think we seriously need to look at a bridge across Conger, and my idea would be these would be local only bridges. Or if we allowed the public on them, we could make them toll bridges, and literally anybody who wants to cut through Old Town to get to Estes during the wintertime will pay $1.50, $3 to cut through Old Town, and we could pay these bridges off in creative ways. But I think we need to sit down and have a larger discussion as a community, especially when it comes to the ability of emergency services to get across our town and actually respond to emergencies. It's getting to a point where it's not just an inconvenience to everyone who lives here, it's actually becoming a detriment to living in town during the weekends and for adequate and timely response of emergency services.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I think that we should probably make that like an agenda item coming up soon for brainstorming about how to do that. Because I was talking a little bit with Karen about it. She was talking about how it's so much of that's private property, et cetera, but we don't need to talk about it now. But
yeah, just long-term discussion of infrastructure needs. It's priority.
Okay. Well, I know that town staff, specifically Chris and Karen, were also discussing that. And so I think am I safe to say, Karen, more to come in the future?
Yeah, definitely. If 2 of the trustees would like to see that we can definitely prepare a packet and bring people up to date and provide them with information.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea for a community conversation on infrastructure. And something else that was mentioned, and this isn't really infrastructure, but I think we all missed NedFest going away. And I hope once COVID's over, we can put our heads together and bring back that festival, because I think it was a real asset to the community and provided a lot of musicians with income, and it was kind of an institution. And there was some, major miscommunication that caused its demise. And I'm sure there are a lot of financial challenges, but I hope we can put our heads together on that.
yeah, I agree with you fully. Arts and culture and NetFest and music and general fun where the community can get together and become friends more.
I know, again, I just had that recent conversation with the library, but I know they're really interested in expanding their programming. and arts and musicians, and that cultural component is big for them as well. So I'm looking, hopefully we'll have some collaborations with other organizations to work on those aspects. And Dawn is also, I believe, on the call, and I know that is a huge area of focus for her. Okay, opportunities and threats. What programs, services, or amenities could Nederland community offer today that aren't currently available? Wide spectrum of responses. Internet came up twice. Again, anything else to add, highlight, or modify?
Would you repeat that statement?
Is there just, yeah, what programs, services, or amenities could Nederland offer today that aren't currently available? You had everything from a recreation department to more health and human services, housing programs, an urgent care pharmacy, internet throughout town, daycare services, and then arts, music, theater, center.
Gotcha. Well, in the immediate, the internet is super important to be able to provide that for kids and people working from home.
I recently had a conversation with Miranda and Karen about, the situation with our internet. And, I don't see an easy solution there because it really comes down to what we as a community want to invest in it. I basically, gave up on CenturyLink and switched to a different provider and have much better connection, but it's, not everybody can do that. But the cost is about the same that I had with CenturyLink. So I do think there are some wireless options, Neternet and forget the other one, broadband, something or other. Anyway, so they're two possibilities, but I think town facilities are being taken care of pretty well by CenturyLink, but residential is really spotty service. And maybe just go to individuals to try to do something about it.
Yeah, I'd like to just see like the entire town of Nederland be a potential hotspot with high speed that people could access from their cars or parks or any, just for people to be able to use it who can't afford internet or can't get it.
I know that there are a few other organizations that are interested in the same thing. Trustee Corvallin is having that town free internet throughout town. Just a matter of, I think, working through that infrastructure challenge that Trustee Apt is referring to. But on our list. Anything else?
I appreciate the comment on the rec department there. I think an opportunity right now, which actually kind of arose because of COVID, would be to look at partnering with surrounding counties if they are interested in potential rec districts. I know that Gilpin County has lost their rec center due to inability in their revenue to actually staff it. They still obviously have to pay to have the building and keep the pool pumps running and all that fun jazz, but they can't actually pay to staff it. And last I had seen through the grapevine was they were trying to communicate amongst interested individuals at looking at forming a rec district. So I see that as a potential opportunity for the town of Nederland to collaborate with Gilpin County and look at broadening the programs through other creative means beyond just financing it out of our very, very small budget.
Are you thinking like that we should join the Gilpin recs, like if they could encompass Nederland in their rec district?
Rec districts are special districts. They can go across multiple counties, like from pretty much Idaho Springs out to Eagle, Montrose, out on the western slope is one rec district. I think there's 3 or 4 counties and 7 different ski resorts that are a part of that. So I'm simply saying let's pay attention to what's developing in the counties around us. And if we're aware of it, there are potential opportunities if we engage in those discussions that could be for the benefit of the entire Peak to Peak and mountain community.
Great. Anything else? Okay. What resources does the community lack? Again, had a series of responses regarding kind of not having the services to deal with health and human services type issues and not having to run through our police department, parks budget, infrastructure in town, urgent care, land, and variety of restaurants. Is there anything else to add to that list?
Well, I mean, things that we're lacking, I mean, we don't, I mean, if we're just listing things, an arts center where for classes for adults and students and kids would be great.
Great. Yeah, this is just kind of a list of whatever comes to mind that you feel like we don't have in the community that we really should. Other thoughts? Okay, obstacles facing the community. Obviously, COVID is a challenge. Jonathan already spoke to this earlier, but the growing population and kind of the changes of that demographic and how we respond to that. Emergency egress, affordable housing, a series of other responses. Climate change was obviously a larger piece too. What other obstacles do you feel like as a community we face right now?
Well, I think it's a bigger thing. It's kind of a lack of community unity and kind of have some people think of Nederland as their town, other people think of it as a suburb of Boulder or wherever they spend more time. So I think we have a really diverse population in terms of what they want for Nederland. And I think that can be a problem.
Okay. Other obstacles? Okay. Well, the last thing, is there anything else you want to add or would like us to consider? Couple things, I guess, to go forward is we've received pretty limited community responses, although I have acknowledged that we have not been pushing that as hard because we've been focusing on the boards and commissions. So we would like to extend the SWOT analysis through September and then commit September to really hitting that community engagement piece hard so we get more than the 20 comments that I think we have right now. I would say 20 people is not representative of our community. So we would like to extend the SWOT another month and then bring all this back to the board in October. Does anyone have any concerns about that or questions?
I think this is Chris. That's in line with my comment. I was going to say is I think the big piece we're missing here is how we're going to do the outreach, because I know when we kicked this off, we all had hoped that we'd be coming out the back end of COVID by now, and we'd be able to actually do some good face-to-face or in-person public outreach. And it's looking less happen anytime soon. So I'm just trying to think about it. Does anyone have any other creative ways that we can do public outreach, that we can make that, because that's the most important part of this. I mean, the SWOT analysis from our point of view, from the other board's point of view, is great. It's important, but it's a tiny fraction of what we need, because it's really needs to be by the public and the residents of Nederland. So I'm trying to think if do we have any other creative ways that we can go about that, despite the fact that we can't hold any public meetings or charrettes or go door to door?
Well, I mean, can we do like a farmer's market, but not a farmer's market? Like, they're doing a really good job of maintaining people with the masks. And I mean, we could possibly set something up at the park outside.
I do agree, Trustee Corvallin. I think that that's something we want to pursue. I think to your point, Mayor Larson, we are not getting the public input, and so we like to be able to reach people in a variety of different ways. I know some people have physically come to the office and sat with me to answer their questions. Other people have called. So giving people maybe some more, not just the online format, but the in-person, the over the phone, just a direct email. I also thought about mailing out the survey so people could return it and drop it off like they do water payments. They could handwrite their answers.
Yeah, is that something that's something we could even put on a print along with the next water bill?
Mhm.
Since we already send that out, if we can tie those together. That's what I'm just saying is I'm looking for the creative ideas because I know there are things we can do that I think we need to do.
I'd love your thoughts because that
Mayor,
is what we
Mayor Larson, I don't know what you think about this, but what about something like 1 or 2 board members and maybe 1 or 2 staff people, whatever, out front of town hall, certain times where we've got this information available, people can fill out the forms, they can talk to elected officials and town staff if they'd like, but ask people to, let people know that we'll have to limit how many people can be there at a time. I don't know if we have people sign up in advance, but something along that line.
Yeah, those are the kind of creative things I'm looking for and trying to think of what we can do.
Well, the other thing we talked about, Dawn and I talked about this a while ago, back when, like you said, we thought we'd be kind of on the other end of this. According to the state and county guidelines, I believe we could have around 50 people at a time in the auditorium. And again, if we open the doors and we could ask people to sign up in advance, but then we accept drop-ins as long as we can handle it, and we could do some sort of meeting in there. I think it's possible.
I would far more appreciate or like something outside.
Yeah, I think people would too.
Auditorium, no way, I'm not coming.
Yeah. Well, and that people may feel that same way.
Exactly. I mean,
we did discuss a public charrette at Chipeta, and I definitely think that is possible to do that and do a couple different times, maybe a weekend and an evening and a daytime where we can spread out tables and people can come down to Chipeta.
Yeah, I think we just need to come up with something that gets some more public input because, like you said, 20 responses from public that's.
Yeah, and I think that's why I do want to extend it, just because the way in which we approach this with boards and commissions changed a little bit from what we had originally anticipated. It took 2 meetings to get the feedback, which was not the original plan. So obviously more time went into those. And so I really just want to focus all of September on just kind of a community outreach. So I know, if people have additional ideas now, or you can email them to me, I would love to get your thoughts on how to gain more community feedback on these questions. I'm happy to report we have wrapped up boards and commissions. We're finishing up ProSab this week and SAB next week, and then we'll be done with it. Tanya, did you have something? You were unmuted.
I changed my mind.
Okay. Okay.
I did want to mention too, as Miranda mentioned earlier, she met with the library. I know we're talking to the Peak to Peak Health and Human Service Alliance tomorrow morning. So we're also reaching out to some of those partner groups.
Okay, well, that's all we have for this work session. And I know I want to allow people time for a break. So does anyone have anything else they want to add before maybe a quick 15-minute break? Okay, my last plug is that next week you should be able to, off of our Envision webpage, which was at the top of this AIM, you'll be able to see all the boards and commissions feedback, and you'll start to be able to see the themes that have emerged out of all of their recommendations and SWOT analysis. So we'll start to kind of build the themes as people give their responses, and then anyone can access the feedback.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you, Miranda, for pulling this all together and for summarizing it all.
Thank you all for the discussion, the work session. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you.
We'll then break and talk soon.
Yeah, we'll be back in about 15 minutes for our regularly scheduled meeting.